Everyone, how's it going? My name is Jeffrey, and today I'm going to be walking through a video tutorial on how to build your own personal slash portfolio website. So this video will actually be the first in a series of videos where we're going to progressively add content, style, and eventually deploy our website. So during these videos, I definitely encourage you to follow along, code along. That way, by the end, you'll hopefully have enough information to add your own content as well as see your own final product yourself. So without further ado, let's get into it. So before we actually do any coding, I want to talk a little bit about websites in general. So every website can be broken down into very simply two basic forms. One is the content. So what information do you want to display? How do you want to display it? And the second portion is the styling. So how is it going to look visually? What spaces are you going to add? What colors are you going to add? And so on and so forth. So today I'm going to focus on the content and how we can actually display information on a website. So as an example, I've pulled up a website from a pretty famous professor at Cornell, famous for social networks and his work in just networks in general. His name is John Kleinberg. So here we can see that he has his name, a short bio, his information about books and teaching, advising, and so on and so forth. So already with just this pure information, he's already displaying a ton of information, useful information that talks about who he is and what he's doing. So today we're going to be building something similar to this, only for your own purposes. So to start, how we would set this up is that you only need two things. One is a text editor. On the left, I'm using Visual Studio Code or VS Code. You can download this online if you want for free, but then again, it doesn't matter what you use. As long as you have any text editor, you are okay. And then you'll just need a browser in order to see your final product. So now how we're going to get started is we're going to create a file and call that index.html. So this file, this .html file, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language, is where we're going to add all of our content and how we're going to actually add the information we want to show onto the page. So the very first thing we have to do here is we have to add some boilerplate code, some backbone template code. So I can add that. I have a shortcut installed that'll add this boilerplate code for me. But if you want, if you don't have this extension installed, you can just look up HTML boilerplate code. And the first link that pops up, you can use that code, copy and paste it, and use it however you want. Awesome. So now that we have that, we can already run our page and see what it shows. So here, it's going to be a blank white page since we haven't actually added any content to it. And we can see that the title called document matches the title on our screen as well. Awesome. So now you can clearly see here, we can actually add whatever content we want. So we can write our name, Jeffrey Xiao, and this name will appear here. So whatever information I add here will be the information that is displayed on this website. So again, throughout the course of this video, we're going to be modeling our website off of John Kleinberg's website, off of his website. So the first thing we want to do is, first actually, before we even modify the actual content on the page, we want to change the title of our website. So right now, document isn't too informative. So since this is a personal portfolio website, we're going to change the title to just our name. And now if we save it, we can see that our website now has our name in it. So any tab that's opened, it'll show our name, which is a better indicator of what this site actually is. Great. Now we can actually start getting into the content of this website. So the first thing we want, first and foremost, on any portfolio personal website, your name should be the most visible portion. People want to know who you are and what you're doing. So your name should be the biggest portion, just like John Kleinberg here. Now, our website currently looks a little different. Our name looks a little different, because it's not as prominent as his name right here. So how we can change that is through tags. So tags is how we're going to navigate all of these HTML files. So tags in the sense that they begin and end with these brackets, and you're going to add the name of the tag to it. So an important tag that we're going to talk about first are header tags or section heading tags. So a good resource in general, when you're doing web development and creating your own site is the MDN web docs. So this is like a very thorough documentation where you can go and look up what tags you want, what anchor tags you want, and it'll give you a very thorough explanation of what they are and how to use it. So for example, the HTML section heading elements. So these range from H1, H2, H3, all the way up to H6, which isn't displayed here, but they go from 1 to 6. And what they are, they just represent section headers. So this big bold text you see here is a section header. So for example, if we wanted the most prominent header, we could do something like H1 and then write our name here. And then for almost every tag, for most tags, we'll have to close this. We have to close this section header. And what that means is that we have to tell the code what portion should be a section header and what portion shouldn't. So to close this tag, to close this H1 tag, we would put /H1. So now if we run this, we can see that our name is a much more prominent and is pretty close to John Kleinberg's site. Awesome. So now that we have that, let's explore some more section headers. Let's say I wanted to give a 10-character or very short introduction to who I am, not even a sentence. So I could do something, I could do another H1, say I am CS at UPenn, what I'm studying and where I'm studying. Now that works, but again, when you're creating a website, you want to keep in mind where when people visit your site, what do you want them to see? So of course, I want my name to be the most prominent. So I'm going to make this portion, CS at UPenn, a little smaller. So I'll make it, let's test out H3. So H3 looks fine. So my name is most prominent, and then they see this text here. So that's great. That's what I want. So now we can call that the header portion. Now we want to get into some more information about ourselves. So if we look back to John Kleinberg's website, we can see that he added a relatively short introduction about himself. So we're going to do just that as well. So right after people see our name, who we are, we want to give them a better understanding of what we do and why we're making this portfolio site. So we can title this bio. Now, using what we know so far, we can actually create a section header for this bio and then add some more text. So let's say I use H2 to title this section, and we can call this, I'll just add the word hello to make it more personable. Great. Now, let's say we wanted to add some text to explain who we are and what we do in a more specific manner than just CS at UPenn. And by the way, this is called a P tag, or short for paragraph tag, and this is used for your general text. So non-bolded, non-emphasized, similar to the text he has here in paragraph form. Awesome. So one thing you might be noticing here is that it can be kind of hard to follow the structure. Everything gets blended together. The spacing is equidistant from each other, so there's not really a great sense of direction as to where to look. So one thing we can do to remedy that for now is to add some line breaks or horizontal lines to separate, to divide these sections. So already with this horizontal line, which you use with this HR and / closing anchor, already with this, we can see that it's a lot more divided, and you can see the different sections. Awesome. So now that we have our bio, let's go into adding another section with these headers. So another common thing people put on their, that I think is good to put on your personal site is a list of your projects. So for example, the whole idea of your personal website is to showcase what you have, what you can do, and what you're passionate about. So projects are a great way to actually showcase some of the things you've worked on. For example, your resume can only list them in text, whereas here you can actually list them in text, give images, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to add here. So this will be a project section. And using what we've done so far, we can actually navigate through this whole site using solely these section headers and paragraph tags and just text. So here, to add some projects, I'm going to just quickly add in a few of my projects as filler code projects. So we're going to use an H2 as a title, and then I'm going to add in my own projects. So now that I've added a couple projects that I've worked on, we can already see that it's looking a lot more like John Kleinberg's website, where he has dividers, sections about what he's done, books and teaching, advising, and then we have projects and a short bio of ourselves up here. So again, we're going to want to divide these two sections to make it easier to see and easier to visualize. So we can do that by adding a horizontal line. And actually, let's also add a horizontal line after this project, just to make it clear. Great. So if you've been looking at John Kleinberg's website, you might have noticed that there are a lot of embedded links throughout his website. So embedded links are a great way to actually link yourselves to other pieces of information. For example, there's only so much information you can put on one website. So it's great to have linked to external websites where you can actually give more information or talk about something else that isn't relevant to put exactly on your website, but is still interesting to look at later on. So for example, let's say I wanted to link computer science and the University of Pennsylvania in my bio. So the way to link websites is, again, we're going to use tags. So tags are the name of the game for HTML documents. So in order to link something, we're going to use something called an A tag or a link tag. So A basically designates that this will be a link. And so we're going to surround what we want to link around these A brackets. So I want to link computer science. So now to specify what link we should go to, we're going to use the attribute href equals, and then add in our link here. So right here. So already you can see that this is linked by the underline, and when I hover over it, you can see a cursor. So if I click on it, it'll link me to a new website. Awesome. So let's make another one. Let's do the same thing, and I will actually surround it around UPenn, so University of Pennsylvania. So I'll add an href equals to the link here, and then again we need to surround what we want with these A tag. So now I'm going to enter the link into the href, which tells the code where this surrounded text should link to when clicked on. So now you can also see that clicking on the name University of Pennsylvania links me to the home page right here. Great. So again, I'm going to leave the links here, but if you want, and if you're following along, I would definitely recommend you play around, add some more links, just like John Kleinberg here has. Great. So now there's a couple more sections to this website. One other section I like to add is, especially I'm studying computer science, so one thing that might be helpful for anyone who's visiting my website is they want to know what technologies I've used before. So what languages, for example, I've used before. So here, I'm going to add another section called, say, you can name this skills, just a skill section. And again, we're going to use our h2 tag to be consistent with previous headers. So we'll label this skills. And then now we're going to introduce something new. Instead of having just writing all this text out, which can get pretty monotone after a while, instead we're going to use another HTML element called a table. So we're actually going to create a table of skills. So to create a table, you might have guessed, you just use the tag called table. So that creates the initial table on its own. Right now, you can't see anything since the table hasn't been added. But in order to actually add content to our table, it's a little more intricate than just typing out what we want to add. So for every table, we have a table row and we have table columns, or what we call dividers. So let's say I wanted to create a table that looked something like this. So say I wanted a 3x2 table where each letter here represents a different skill. This table would have 3 rows and 2 columns. So the way we do this is, let's first create all the rows. So here, since we want 3 rows, to create a row, we use the tr tag. So this open tr tag, closing tr tag designates 1 row. Now let's create 2 more rows for a total of 3 rows. Now in each row, we want to insert 2 elements. So we can kind of imagine this as 2 columns for every row. So instead of columns for tables in HTML, we use the tag called table divider, or TD for short. So for example, here we want to add TD one time. So this represents the A here. And then let's also add another one where the second one is going to represent the B here. And let's do this for every single one here. So with this, we have a total of 6 elements, 3 rows, and 2 in each column, which is what we want. So now we can just fill this in with our skills. And voila. So our table appears here. So already you can see that this is a pretty nice table. It's more organized and it's more visual. One thing we can do is that currently these elements are a little too close to each other. It can get kind of hard to read since the spacing isn't too prominent. So one attribute we can add to the table is to add some spaces between these cells. So if you actually go through the MDN documentation, or we can look up MDN tables. So the table element, you'll be able to look for, it'll tell you a lot more information about how you can use this table, what attributes you can add. For example, if we wanted to add cell spacing, we can add cell spacing to every single cell. So we can do cell spacing equals to, let's say I want 25 pixels. By doing this, you can see that we just added spacing around them. In the next video, we're going to talk more about how we can style this without having to do this. That way it's more standard and it's stylistically more clean. But for now, this is great. And then finally, after the skills, we want to add a contact footer, or just a contact section, right? So if someone wants to contact you, they're interested in your works and want to learn more, we can add that section right here. So contact section. Now, finally, we've put in this description, we've encouraged them to contact us, they're interested. Now we just have to link them somewhere. So for now, a common thing is to link them to, say, LinkedIn or your GitHub so they can learn more about you. In later videos, we're going to work with buttons that can help them send you an email, which will be an even better way for them to contact you. But for now, let's just say I wanted to add a LinkedIn, showcase my LinkedIn profile or GitHub profile. And then at the very bottom, I want to put in, at the very bottom, it's right here. So it would be option G to add in, say, a personable footer where it's copyrighted by me. Great. So now let's say I wanted to link people to my LinkedIn and GitHub. Again, how we would do that, we would use the A tag. So here, specify href equals to what link we want to link them to. And I would do the same for GitHub. So here, I'm going to copy the LinkedIn link and GitHub. And then now I'm going to put this in a P tag. And here we go. So now we can see that the LinkedIn keyword is tagged and linked, and as well as the GitHub one. Great. So we've added almost all of the key piece of information to the site. One thing that I believe is really beneficial for websites is that they're more visual. They're more visual than just, say, a plain resume where you can only showcase, or where most of it is text. So one thing that I recommend for your websites is to include a small picture of yourself. So let's just bring our photo into the file explorer first. So I would recommend creating a new folder solely for images, since if you have a lot of images, it's nice to put all the images into one folder. So I'm going to drag an image into this images folder. That's my headshot. And now to add the image into our page, let's say I wanted to add it to the very top above my name so that immediately they can see a face, they can put a name to a face and a face to a name. So let's say I want to put an image. So how we would do that is using the image tag, close. And then to continue to add our image, what we need to put is definitely one thing called a source, and then something that I recommend is called an alt. So this source is the reference point of your image. So you want to add this image to the source. So in order to get the file of our headshot, we want to navigate from index into the images folder and then into this headshot.jpg file. So to do that, let's start with the current directory, go to the images folder actually, and then access this headshot.jpg. Now this alternate is basically for instances when the image can't load for some reason. So if the image can't load, what text do you want to display there? You could display nothing, which is fine, but I recommend just labeling it, putting say personal headshot. That way you know what image is supposed to be there in the event that it doesn't load. So now let's save it, and you can see my headshot is above my name. Great. So that's, for the most part, the basic information slash content and sections of our website. Of course, you are more than welcome to add more. There's definitely a lot more you can add, and in a real finished website, there would be a lot more to this than just 2 projects or whatnot. You would definitely want to add more information about yourself so that people know who you are and get a better sense outside of, say, your resume and all that. One final thing before we end this video here is that right now everything is left aligned, and it's kind of bothering me in a sense that I like to have things centered and clean. So one thing we can do to remedy that for now, and we will talk a lot more about this next week since this has more to do with styling than just pure HTML, is by adding something called a div tag, and then inside here adding custom styling. So we could put style, and don't worry about this for now. We will talk again about this. Style equals to, now let's say we want to center this. We could put text align center. Now everything here is centered. Oops, this table is not centered. So we can go to the table, and we can add style as well. And let's say margin auto. Great, now everything is centered for now. All of our content is here, and everything's looking pretty nice. So already this is looking pretty good, looking relatively similar to John Kleinberg's website. Already you can display this website and it'll showcase who you are, a little bit about yourself, which is great, which is the intent of our website. So in the next video, we're going to talk more about styling. How can we make this more visually appealing, since, for example, it's just black text on white background. All the font sizes are relatively the same. So how can we add colors to this, add a visual scheme to make this more personal and better to look at, something people would want to actually visit? So until then, this will be our website, and I'll see you soon.